I would like to commend you, Mr. Inslee, for weighing into this and putting together a proposal which many members agree with. Obviously, our role here has been what I think you indicated there, is to try to be helpful, to shed some light on this, to try to get the parties to get together without negotiating for them or tell them you ought to do this and you ought to do that, to get them so that they resolve this, short of Congress having to do it. Right. We don't know how that's all going to play out at this point, but also to let the public know through the coverage of this how serious this is, as far as some of the music literally ending for a period of time if this isn't resolved. So I want to again commend you, and again commend the chairwoman for holding this hearing today. My only question would be, getting back again to the chairwoman's question, asking maybe in a little different way, the July 15th date, which is coming up. Obviously, it's not very likely that your bill would get floor action and pass into law and then go to the Senate and there'd be a conference committee and
right.
get to the president's desk, and the odds of that happening by July 15th are slim to none. Right. So what do you anticipate will happen if the court doesn't issue a stay? And again, and maybe I ought to even ask you, do you have any information relative to what the attorneys think, whether the court will issue a stay? And if they don't, what do you think will happen?
I don't have any sort of inside scoop on that that I could share. Here's my think. There's a mindset here that we've got 20 seconds left on the game clock, and then when the buzzer goes off, we're done, and we're just done. And so people could run the clock out, so to speak, on July 15th, and then we're done. That is not the case. July 15th is not the beginning, not the end. It's not the beginning of the end. It might be the end of the beginning. And if we don't reach a resolution of this by July 15th of the parties, this effort in Congress will continue and swell dramatically, because when those decisions are made to shut off Internet radio, whatever congressmen and women have heard to date, you're going to hear 5 or 10 times as much after July 15th. And our efforts to have some legislative resolution of this will not just continue, they will increase dramatically. So July 15th is not the end of the game, it is maybe the beginning of the real congressional action on this. So that's why I think it's important for all the parties to realize that there's no sort of four corners offense here. Or North Carolina used to run, you have four corners, you pass the ball and the game runs out. We're going to continue this effort. We are not going to let the music die. Americans enjoy it too much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back, Madam Chair.
Some Americans may feel that AOL and Clear Channel Online, Yahoo Music, Launchcast may be the principles behind this effort to contain royalty rates at the expense of the musicians and people who play the music. Did AOL and Clear Channel Online and Yahoo Music, were they some of the participants in this day when all of the music went dead on the webcast?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I should know, because I was at a rally with some of the smaller bands out here last week. I don't know if any of the larger folks did that or not. I don't know the answer to that.
What will happen to the July 15th? New royalty rate goes into effect. Nothing happens between now and then. Nothing happens in the courts. Nothing happens in Congress. The rate goes into effect. What will happen to the webcasters who continue to broadcast on the web but don't pay the escalating royalty rates, or don't pay any royalty rates? What happens to them under the current state of the law now?
Well, they would be legally obligated. There would be a legal obligation to pay this, and of course, we always, as member of Congress, suggest citizens follow the law.
They wouldn't be hauled off to jail or anything.
No,
like that
I don't think there's. I don't believe there is a criminal penalty associated with this.
They would have to actually hire one of those despicable lawyers to perhaps defend them if someone decided to sue them.
Well, I
get
think
the money.
that may be true, but I would suggest that what I think will happen is that some will make a decision. They can't face the risk of continued business and close their businesses down. Some will continue without necessarily making the payment in a timely fashion in the hopes that pressure will build on Congress and either Congress will act or the parties will finally reach a resolution. The larger parties may continue in the hopes that negotiations continue. But I guess the one thing I would share with you, and I've spent some time talking to people in this, associated with this, I think the pressure is the demand in America for this service. It is so ingrained in people's lives now. It's like coffee in the morning and internet radio on, during the day, that there will be a movement by Congress ultimately if there is not some resolution of this ultimately. And so I hope the parties are successful in moving forward in this regard, and I hope that'll happen.
Well, I guess the point I was trying to get to is that the lights are not going to go out on July 15th because new royalty rates are applicable thereafter. Will they?
Well, I think some will. I think talking to some of the webcasters that I've talked to, some of them are unwilling to take the financial risk that there would not be a settlement, and they may shutter their doors at that period of time. I think that the longer it goes, the more will shutter their businesses. I can't tell you percentages, but I think it is a real risk that will happen. There's another risk, too. I'll just share with you. I was at a meeting here in D.C., and I ran into this guy who's a software developer. And he's also a musician, and he sells his music. And we started talking about this issue, and I kind of thought he might not like my legislation because he sells music. He gets a premium for, a copyright for his music. And he said, I am totally for your bill. And I said, how come? He says, this is the only way I get my music to Americans is through this internet radio, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to do that under this current structure. So it's not just the broadcasters that have something at stake July 15th. We have to make sure songwriters are fairly compensated. They deserve it. We need their music. It's necessary, and it's the law. But we have the guys like I talk to who are not going to be to distribute their music. The guys who have the Gothic Western, you're not going to hear those on top 40 songs, with all due respect to the genre. And so they have a stake in this as well for somehow we reach a resolution of this.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of small webcasters who seek to become large broadcasters.
Right.
And they, because they want to sell advertising on the webcast, they want to perhaps at some point charge people for subscribing to the website. It's always some money involved somewhere. And my hope is that we won't help one segment of our population at the expense of another, and I think fairness is really important here. And I'm concerned that we've taken 18,000 pages of testimony or something like that, and just a careful analysis of all of the market factors, and the Copyright Royalty Board came up with a decision based on input from so many different interests and stakeholders. And now, 5 years later, there's a push now to just change everything. It just, something doesn't feel right about it in my estimation, and I do want to see further justification. So I'm open. I want to hear.
If I can comment on that, I think that's a very important precept that Congress shouldn't be changing the rules of the game willy-nilly. After you make a decision, I think that is important. But I look at this as sort of like, we spent 18,000 hours developing the shuttle, and it crashed. One of the first models, and we fixed it. And I think that we're heading for a crash here on something that the economics will not allow Americans to enjoy their music. And so I think it's of that order of magnitude. And I'm hoping the parties will move forward so we don't have to, but if otherwise, I hope Congress will act. Thank you.